one of the reasons why we came to Portugal, to have a different kind of life where it wasn't that we were chauffeuring kids everywhere all the time, where we weren't overscheduled, where it was just a more relaxed pace of life, and where the community valued that time where everybody did everything together. Something that I found really lovely about Portugal is that it's multi-generational. It's
Mhm.
not just the kids or just the parents, or it's everybody. It's the grandparents, it's the whole community. I'm really pleased with our move.
Welcome to Global Professionals in Portugal. Today's guest is Crystal Ray Murno, and she is originally from Buffalo, New York, and she moved to Portugal via Italy. She is both a nurse and a life coach. Crystal, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to hear about your professional journey to get here.
We originally wanted to come straight to Portugal on a D7 visa. That did not work because we did not have the passive income
Mhm.
to be able to do that. So we went through a different avenue. My husband, both of us actually have Italian descent, but it's just way harder for women to get it through a female line in Italy. My husband was able to get it. We were in Italy for 3 months. And then once his documentation came through, we moved to Portugal.
Why did you choose Portugal instead of Italy?
I will tell you that I love Italy and maybe someday we will live there. Portugal is just so much closer. The cost of living, the language, the access to the ocean.
You have a master's in nursing and you were
Yes,
able to secure a remote position. Can you tell us a little bit
yes.
about that?
Okay, so my journey as a nurse. I worked in the hospital, but all along as I worked in the hospital, I was getting my master's to teach nursing. I felt like it was really important to actually work as a nurse
Mhm.
in order to be able to teach. When I did finish my master's degree, I taught at a few colleges and a state university in the area where I lived.
Mhm.
I love teaching.
Yeah.
However, I also worked educating daycare providers. Along the path, I picked up this side gig training daycare providers on how to give medications safely to children.
Mm.
And then that morphed into becoming a consultant and helping them with their healthcare policies, keeping children healthy and safe, all of the regulatory documentation that comes in New York State. And so when we decided to move to Portugal, I actually gave up my teaching position, my full-time faculty position, because I could not continue that working
Yeah.
in Portugal. However, I do continue to consult with my daycares, and I can do that remotely. I do go back to the United States quarterly, maybe every 6 months to do in-person training and to meet with my daycare providers. So that is what I'm doing right now. But I'm excited to serve the community here. And so this is a new endeavor for me.
So you're working remotely with the New York State daycare people, and then you're also
Mhm.
building up a consulting practice doing coaching.
Yes, I work as a Christian life coach. I usually just do this based on referrals. I really feel called to do. I just think that I think that loving God and loving others is what's important. I have done many courses, life coaching certifications. A big one is the Enneagram. Some of
That's
your
like a
viewers are
test,
familiar.
right? You take a test and it tells you what kind of person you are and how you can live your
Yes.
best life, right?
The Enneagram, it's like a personality test. It's really a tool, and I think with anything, awareness is a big thing. What I like about the Enneagram is that it really talks about your core motivations,
Mm.
which is very different than any kind of other personality test. Your core motivations, your core fears, your weaknesses, and the things that you long for. Once I found out the type that I was just like, wow, I cannot believe like how known or seen I
Mm.
felt like from a test. So I'm a type 8, which is a challenger. So confrontation is not a big deal for me,
Right.
and I'm motivated. And being vulnerable is a big deal. So this interview is a big deal because I'm sharing a part of me. For your viewers, if anybody wanted to do a typing session to figure out what type they were, I could offer that to them. They would just have to email me.
We'll put Crystal's contact information in the description so you can reach out to her. One of the great things about things like tests is finding out about yourself, but then you have to apply that to change the way that you do things in your life so that you actually have a better experience of being alive. What about it was so profound that you then were like, I have to learn how to do this and help other people?
Some of the things that I learned through this test, some of the pitfalls that my personal type can fall into, maybe digging too much. I'm a go go kind of person, not
Mhm.
taking enough time to rest. So, hence, one of the
Mm.
reasons why we're in Portugal is because I can get into that cycle of like just producing, going, not sitting with my feelings, not really processing emotions or even or sharing or being aware of them or coming across really angry and forceful initially and not really taking a minute to process my feelings. So awareness of that in your personality, then you are like, wait a minute, oh, here I am, I'm doing that thing. And it's okay. Why am I doing this thing? Is it serving me? Or do I have a reason to be angry? Because sometimes there are reasons to be
Right.
angry, right?
Right.
But then sometimes it's no, I'm just making a mountain out of a molehill and I just need to chill out, right? Take a deep breath, let me feel the emotion, and then move on, and maybe if I have to apologize because I acted out or whatever, and take the next step. So awareness is really the biggest key, which was so great about the Enneagram, is really awareness and what it is that I really long for, how I
Mm.
really connect with others.
I love that you were able to say, is this serving my purpose or is this just my automatic way of responding to something? And then let me just feel through it. And I think that learning that about ourselves can be so powerful. For people who are wanting to transition their work, how did you figure out how you were going to basically keep eating and a roof over your head after you moved?
It was really hard. I have to say, I did go to get my master's in education, and that was really hard for me to give up that full-time position. I believe it was the right thing, but it was hard as a professional woman to have gone
Mhm.
through and done education. For me to continue teaching online as a nursing instructor, I would have had to get my PhD, and I was not, I love to learn, but I was not going to pay for another degree, not 1 cent more. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a real kind of letting go of
Mhm.
something that kind of hurt. I grieved that a bit, but it opened up so many opportunities. So it took the skills that I have and the passions that I have for people and helping them, because you can't really give away what you don't have. I'm a nurse. There's no stopping me. That's
Right.
who I am. I have that knowledge and I love the profession. So I'm excited to
When I plan these shows, I send my guests some questions to ask them just so we don't go in blind. And one of the things that you said in the questionnaire that you have this deep drive to serve the community in which you live, but you also have this deep drive to be available to your family. And I do think that's a challenge a lot of women have, especially, although men have it too, where you want to be successful, you want to have a career, you want to do all these things, but you also want to be a parent and be involved. Tell me a little bit about your deep drive to serve and your journey to Portugal.
That has been the biggest challenges of my entire motherhood. That was one of the reasons why we came to Portugal, to have a different kind of life where it wasn't that we were chauffeuring kids everywhere all the time, where we weren't overscheduled, where it was just a more relaxed pace of life, and where the community valued that time, where everybody did everything together. That's something that I found really lovely about Portugal, is that all of the festivals, all of the parties, all of everything, it's multi-generational. It's
Mhm.
not just the kids or just the parents, or it's everybody. It's the grandparents, it's the whole community. I'm really pleased with our move in that aspect, that we were able to spend more time with our 15-year-olds. That was a real big reason why we moved. We moved for numerous other reasons, but that one is the my husband is Brazilian, so he already spoke Portuguese, and we did spend some time in Brazil, 2 years, and then when I did get pregnant with the twins, we moved back to the United States, and but they did not learn Portuguese. We never spoke, Portuguese with them in the home because having twins, if you can imagine, and we also have an older son,
You had
really,
other
uh
priorities.
and so our older son was able to speak Portuguese and our twins were not. And so that was another reason for us to move to Portugal is we really wanted them to learn the language so they could communicate with my husband's family
So many people speak English. And
way more than I thought.
young people. So my son is 13 and he has a pretty good circle of friends from all over the world, which is wonderful,
Mhm,
including Portugal, and all
mhm.
of them speak English together. So even though he's in school speaking Portuguese in class, it's really not immersion.
I'm finding the same exact thing. It's the same thing with my twins. Their friends speak English and I try when their friends come over to say, let's speak in Portuguese. Vamos falar em português. We've been here now a year in January. And I do think that they are understanding a great deal more of Portuguese. I do know that they speak Portuguese when they're out in the community. And so that's encouraging.
I still hear, oh, kids just pick up the language. And it's not true. If you're having like a 3-year-old, that's true. If you put a 3-year-old into a Portuguese preschool or daycare, they will absolutely become fluent very quickly. But if you have teenagers, it's actually very normal for it to take 2 years. 2 to 3 years is normal. So many people tell you, oh, 3 months and they'll be fluent. That's a lie. If they were totally immersed in how to survive, that might be true.
I agree 100%. I do think if they're young, it's easier for them to pick up
Right.
the language. They have so many opportunities to just speak English and also to use technology to
Mhm.
not have to
Yep.
communicate, things that we never had when we were younger. When I was learning Portuguese, I didn't ever have Google Translate. So I just had to actually sit at a dinner table with people who did not speak English and actually have to learn. And yeah, it takes some time and I did have to adjust my expectations in terms of time.
I want to ask you a little bit about the journey as a parent and your teenagers' schooling briefly.
They're in 10th grade.
Right. Okay.
So 10th grade is where high school starts here. That was really important for me. I wanted them to have a year here in Portugal really before they started high school. So they started school together at a different school in 9th grade last year. It's a public middle school. I wanted them to have that experience so that way when they went into high school, they knew what school was like. They had an understanding of the language a little bit and they would be able to step into high school and be a little bit more confident about their
Mhm.
Portuguese. They were able to pass their Portuguese exam, which was really
Oh, good.
important because they would
Really
not have
good.
been able to move on to high school if they didn't.
Mhm.
Portuguese and math exams that they have at the end of 9th grade, those are the two required exams to pass to move forward. The public schooling here is awesome because they have this opportunity to take professional courses. So you can do a traditional high school course, or you can opt to take a profession, which at the end will give you a certificate in whatever your profession is. So my son chose a profession in technology and computer sciences. At the end of the 3 years, he'll have a certificate in that. It is demanding these professional courses. He is in school every day from 8:20 until 6:20. So it's a
Wow.
long day for him, but he really is enjoying the school. He really feels like he's learning a lot. His twin sister, she is going to the hotel and tourism school here in Caldish. She's on the professional track of cooking and baking. At the end, she'll be able to work in a kitchen somewhere or become a chef if that's what she wants. I appreciate the way the Portuguese do the schooling because after both of them can go to university and continue to learn if they want to, but also they can just go to work
Yeah.
with their certificate.
I think it's great that they can graduate high school with a way to make a living. Could you share with us any strategies for success in terms of adapting to a new culture while you're working that has helped you?
Being open minded, being interested is a big part of it. I think that the people who come here and want to replicate their life from
Mhm.
where they came from,
Right.
they will have a hard time. but stepping into the way the culture moves through life
Mm.
here in Portugal is going to be a big that is a strategy. That's going to be a big part of how you find it easier or difficult to adapt to the life here. Just being observant and aware of how other people are living and working, paying attention to and researching, watching videos like this, reading about other expats' experiences, becoming parts of groups where other people can help support you in your journey of adapting here. Know that it's going to take time. Maybe you have a specific expectation of how things should
Right.
be or will be, but be open to shifting those expectations when they're not met. And because cultural adaptation is a process. It's really funny because I came back to the US. I just came back from a trip to the US and I found myself in a little bit of reverse culture shock. I was just like, oh my gosh, the cars, they're so big. The roads, the houses, everything is so big. Everything is so extra. It was a perspective shift for me returning back and just how I have really come to be adapted because there's so many things to still learn. But I definitely think that going back, it was like, wow, I don't really belong here so much either. So I'm in this in between space. And it can be uncomfortable for people, I think. So just being aware that is something that can happen and be around people who can support you in that time.
Feeling like you're not really at home in your new country, but you're also not at home in your previous country. I think a lot of us go through that. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a challenging place. Thank you so much, Crystal. And thank you, everybody who watched the show. Please ask us questions, leave your comments. Thank you very much for being here, Crystal.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.